Well, good afternoon, happy lunchtime. I'm here today to talk about how I do juicing. So to get started, I'll introduce myself. My name's Bulaong Ramiz-Hall. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm the director of the Emily Taylor Center for Women and Gender Equity at the University of Kansas. And shout out to my Sacred Woman book club. I got started juicing not too long ago over the social distancing period because I joined a book club and we were doing a cleanse. And I really wanted to learn how to juice. I wanted to buy a juicer, but it was not in my budget. So I did a lot of research and learned that I could juice with the blender that I had already owned, so long as I bought a nut milk bag, or cheesecloth is also something that people use. So I'm gonna go through how I make my green juices. This is really great for folks who are often in a rush, on a go, and just wanna have something quick in the fridge that they can pull out and drink. For those of us who are not well-versed in the kitchen, this is a great option as well. I am not a huge fan of cooking. I'm not particularly good at it. And I often don't have time. And so I will do juicing and it really fills me up. For me, I don't do a big breakfast, but I'll drink some juice. And then for those of us who are parents and have little ones, and you're having a hard time getting veggies into them, my daughter loves smoothies and juices. And so I will make her fresh juices and sneak in some kale or some cucumber and things like that. So we're gonna get started. I'll share a little bit about the ingredients that I have here. And I'm gonna turn the camera a bit. So today we're making a green juice, and I am working with some fennel here. We have cucumber cut up, apples, a little bit of lime, I have some celery, bunches of kale, and some parsley. I also have a little bit of distilled water just in case all of this stuff is a little bit too thick to help kind of water the juice a little bit. In addition, I have my nut milk bag. I have a couple of these. You just wash them with soap and I hang them to dry on my little sink. And then I have glasses that I store my juices in, as well as a big bowl that will eventually hold my juice before I pour it into the glasses. And of course, my blender. And so I use this blender to make obviously my juices, but also my smoothies and a nice frozen margarita every so often. So we're gonna get started. So I pre-cut up some of these ingredients. I always start with the cucumber first on the bottom because cucumber has a high water content. And so when you're making juices, it's easier to blend things with high water content on the bottom. And so I will toss those in first. And then I typically will do either celery or the apples go with it. And blend that first and try to get the water content out of those so that when we add the thicker things with less water content like the kale, there's at least some liquid in the blender. So we started doing this virtual Skillshare, just a little history, to continue to stay connected to our community during quarantine when we first all went home. And we decided to continue it because I think it's a really great way that we have been able to connect with people both at KU and outside of KU, and also celebrate all of the unique ways that people are engaging in this during this time. So people are learning new skills, they're finessing their old skills, and this is my new skill. So we are gonna blend this cucumber and this apple. so as you saw, the cucumber has so much water in it. You don't actually need to add any water in it at that time. It'll just blend it right up with the apple, and then you just keep adding the things that you want. Like I said, we're making a green juice today, but you can juice pretty much anything. I like to do watermelon juice. One of my favorites is carrot and ginger juice. Add a little turmeric, which is really great for your immune system as we head into cold season. I just added a little bit of lime. I think the citrus cuts it a little bit. We're gonna add some celery. Celery juice is really great for your body, for your skin in general, and so you could just juice celery. I know people who just juice celery and drink that. I have a little bit of parsley that I'm gonna add. I know people don't think juicing, they don't necessarily think parsley, but I think it gives it some good flavor. And I just kind of stuff them in there. Then I have a little bit of fennel. Fennel for me, I don't love the taste, but it's good for you, and so I try to add just a little bit in there as well. You see, we're gonna do that, and I'm gonna add a little bit of this distilled water just to help blend up some of the things I just added. And I'll add the kale last. I'll blend this first and then add the kale. Of course, I just made a mess. I'm really good at that. All right, so I'm gonna turn this so you can see. So I see the fennel got a little stuck up there, so I'm just gonna push that down. See, there's a question if I ever add sweetener or if it's just produce and fruit. I do not add sweetener into these juices. You can. I think that if you mix the right fruits together, you could have naturally sweet juice. Like I said, I like to do the watermelon often, and that sometimes is very sweet and delicious. Adding strawberries into your juices gives it a good sweet taste. All right, so that fennel is in there. Yeah, so I don't do any juice sweeteners, and I'm not a huge sugar person, but if I do add sweeteners to the things that I'm making, I typically will use agave. I recently stopped doing honey. I did a 21-day vegan thing and didn't do honey, but agave is really good. But like I said, you could get some sweet juices. The last thing we're gonna do is the kale, and I already took most of these off the stem. I think people are often intimidated by kale because it's, you have to pick all of the leaves off. I was walking in Target the other day and they had this cool device where you can just shuck the leaves, kind of like you would corn, and they were charging like $7 for it. But the device was essentially fingers. So if you make your fingers like a scissor, I'll show you how I do this, and just hold the tip and you make your fingers like a scissor and just pull through, the kale comes right off, right, and into there. And then you have your stem, and you have your kale. And so that's how I basically get the leaves off my kale without having to do too much work. It's really simple. And then you can compost your stems. You can blend them, I suppose. I don't, but you can compost them. I sometimes like to take the leftovers and put them in a smoothie. toss the kale in here. Let's see, this is what we're working with. I'm gonna just stuff that kale. Like I said, this is a really great option if you don't want to spend hundreds of dollars on a juicer, which is what I don't want to do. You just juice your fruit by blending it, your fruit and veggies by blending it, and then we'll drain it. So here's the last bit. Push this kale down a little bit more. Get that in there. All right. You can add spinach to this. I do have some. I'm not going to add it to this today. You can add other fruits and veggies. I'm adding a little bit more water to blend that kale. So now that everything is blended, you want to make sure it doesn't look too thick. So it looks pretty good. It's moving. Because you're going to use this nut milk bag. And these nut milk bags you can purchase. They have them at Target, Walmart. A lot of grocery stores have them. If you're still shopping via Amazon, no shame, I am too. But you can get them on Amazon. But if you can shop local, and you're in Lawrence, the Merck, Natural Grocers, they all have these nut milk or cheese bags. It's how they make almond milk and oat milk and things like that. But I'm gonna move us over to the big sink over here. And I typically just put a bowl in the sink like so, and I'll have my nut milk bag here, and we'll pour the juice into the nut milk bag. So I'm gonna try to set this up where you can kind of see it. I might ask for some support. Here we go. All right, so I do this over the sink because I'm clumsy, but I'm not gonna do that today because it's too deep. So I take everything that I blended and I pour it directly into the nut milk bag. Now, make sure the bag is the right inside out, not inside out, the right side out. I've done that before, and then I had to pour it out and flip it over and rinse it out and all of that. But yes, so then you want to pour this in here. I'm gonna try to do this without the blender blades coming out. And then I'll show you what it looks like. I'm gonna leave that bit in there for now. So this is what it looks like when you pour it in. Do you see the juice on the side is already starting to come out of the bag? And then all of the pulp and meat is left in this bag. Okay. And so the fun part, and just close up this bag. Make sure your hands are clean. And you see the juice coming out, and you just kind of squeeze it. Like the milk in a cow. This method may seem like a lot of work, but from what I hear from people who do juicing, this method actually gets you more juice from green leafy vegetables than a juicer. I think a lot of juicers have a hard time getting the juice out of the green leafy vegetables and end up tossing them in the compost bowl. But this way you can get a lot of that juice out of the green leafy vegetables. And it's pretty quick, and to be honest, I think it's much easier to clean than a juicer. These you just wash with some soap and water. You rinse your blender, put it on high with some soap and water, and that's it, really. And then you can store these in your jars and in your fridge. I typically keep them in my fridge for up to 48 hours. You can also freeze the juices, but I like to make fresh juice and drink it the day I made it. All right, so let's look at all our juice. Look at that. Yummy green juice with a blender and a nut milk bag. So with the pulp that's left in the bag, you can pop this in the fridge and put it in a smoothie if you like smoothies in the morning. See, that's all the pulp. It's nice and thick and all juiced. And for the juice, if you're really good at pouring things into small containers, so these are my little glass mason jar containers. There is a shortage of mason jars in the world right now. So if you have some, hold them dear to your heart. So if you're good at pouring things, you could pour from the bowl directly into a glass jar. I'm not great at that, so I typically pour into a wide mouth, what is this called? Measuring cup. and then I'll pour from my measuring cup into my jars. So let's see how much juice we got. There it is. Healthy green juice. Look, and that's 4 cups of juice. Just so you all know, I used 1 bunch of kale, 2 apples, about 8 celery, 2 cucumbers, just a tiny bit of parsley, a tiny bit of fennel, and I got 4 cups of green juice. So I'm gonna pour that in there. Pour this in here. And this is really quick, right? This took me, what, 20 minutes or so. I'm gonna pour the rest of this in a glass and have some right now. All right, let's taste it. That's delicious. Healthy, earthy, and delicious. It is a beautiful color. So with these, I will put them in the fridge and let them get cold. I really like cold juice. You can make your juice cold so that it's cold and ready to serve by putting all of the fruits and vegetables that you use in the fridge and then juicing them right out of the fridge. I don't do that typically because when you go to squeeze them out of the bag, it's very cold and your hands are cold. So I will juice them like this and then go and put them in the fridge to get them nice and chilled. And I'll probably have one of these in a few hours for my afternoon snack and save one for my partner and my daughter to have for a snack later. So like I said, you can juice pretty much anything, watermelon, all sorts of melons, cucumbers, berries, and then using a nut milk bag, it really helps to drain all of the pulp out. You can save this, you can compost this if you have a garden, if you have plants, or if you want to save it and put it in a smoothie and make smoothies in the morning. That adds a little bit of your healthy green pulp into it. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot us a message. We will post this video on our YouTube channel. You can look us up, Emily Taylor Center. We are part of the University of Kansas. And happy juicing, everybody.